If you could time travel to ancient Rome with your phone and your salary, you'd still recognize the same problem people face today. People don't feel broke because they earn too little. They feel broke because their wants grow faster than their boundaries. Think about it. When you started your first job, you probably looked at your current salary as a dream amount. You thought, if I ever make that much, I'll be set forever. But now that you are here, does it feel like enough? Or does it feel just as tight as before, only with more expensive problems? But what if one ancient rule could stop that cycle before it starts? Today I am giving you one money rule that has been sitting in plain sight for about 2,000 years. And no, this is not a get-rich-quick thing, and it is not investment advice. It is a behavior rule. A rule about how desire quietly taxes your life, even when income goes up. Think about the last time you got a raise. You probably thought, finally, I can breathe. You might have even calculated how much you could save. But 6 months later, that extra money just evaporated. Why? Because of a psychological glitch called Hedonic Adaptation. Your brain quickly resets its baseline for happiness. The fancy coffee that was once a treat becomes a daily necessity. The new car that felt amazing becomes just the car you drive to work. The apartment that felt huge becomes just the place where you keep your stuff. What if this rule is the missing piece to why your raises disappear so fast? What if the problem isn't the math, but the mechanism of desire itself? Here is the promise. In the next few minutes, you will get the rule, the history behind it, and 3 practical steps to apply it without becoming a minimalist monk or cutting all joy out of your life. Because life is meant to be enjoyed, but there is a difference between enjoying life and being consumed by it. The rule is this: set a boundary for desire before you chase more income. Because if you don't set the boundary, more income simply gives your desire more room to expand, and you end up in the same place, just with nicer packaging. You end up running on a treadmill that speeds up every time you try to get ahead. This isn't a modern idea. Ancient writers were already talking about it in a way that is almost uncomfortable to read, because it still fits our lives perfectly. They didn't have credit cards or one-click ordering, but they had the same human brain. Aristotle describes virtue as a mean, a balance between excess and deficiency. He applies this logic to money behavior. He argues there is a healthy middle between reckless spending and greedy hoarding. It is not about having zero. It is about having enough. But what is enough? That is the question most of us never answer. So the answer defaults to more. Horace pushes it in a very practical direction. He suggests that instead of obsessing over fancy upgrades, we should ask what boundary nature puts on appetite. He asks us to distinguish between what we can actually do without and what is essential. He tells us to separate what is solid, meaning real needs, from what is vain, meaning status signals. Cicero frames a decision trap we still fall for today. He talks about the conflict between what looks profitable in the moment versus what is actually right for the life you are building. It might look profitable to buy the thing that makes you look successful, but if it drains the resources you need for actual freedom, was it really a gain? So what does this look like in 2026? It looks like the Diderot Effect. Denis Diderot was a French philosopher who lived in poverty for most of his life, until he was gifted a beautiful scarlet robe. It was magnificent. But then he noticed a problem. His old rug looked cheap and tattered next to the beautiful robe. So he replaced the rug. Then the chair looked bad next to the new rug. Then the desk looked out of place. Eventually, he replaced everything he owned to match the robe, and he ended up in debt. He wrote an essay about it called Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown. He said, "I was absolute master of my old dressing gown, but I have become a slave to my new one." Does that sound familiar? You buy the new phone, but now you need the new watch to match it, and the new headphones because the jack changed, and the premium subscription to get the most out of the features. You buy the new couch, but now the paint on the walls looks old. It is a chain reaction of consumption that never ends because there's always a next upgrade. Let me show you the modern version of this trap in 15 seconds. You get a raise. You feel relief for 2 weeks. Then you upgrade something. Maybe it is your phone, your car payment, your clothes, or just ordering food delivery more often. None of these individually destroy you, but together they do something worse. They reset your baseline. your life becomes more expensive to maintain. So your raise disappears into the new normal. You have to earn that new higher amount just to stay where you are. That is why the rule matters. It is not about banning spending. It is about building a boundary that your spending cannot cross, so your future doesn't get eaten by your present. It is about deciding that the raise belongs to your freedom, not your lifestyle. Here are the 3 steps. Simple, not easy. Step 1 is to define your nature boundary. This is directly inspired by that ancient idea of separating the solid from the vain. Pick a number or a rule that marks the line between life support and status decoration. Most people have a budget, but a budget is just a plan for how to spend. A boundary is a rule for when to stop. For example, you could say, my fixed lifestyle costs will not exceed 50% of what comes in. Or you could say, I can upgrade one thing per quarter, not whenever I feel stressed. Or maybe, no new monthly subscriptions, unless one old one is canceled the same day. This step is powerful because it turns money into a decision system, not a mood system. When you are tired, stressed, or seeking a dopamine hit, your mood will always say bye. Your boundary says wait. Without the boundary, you are negotiating with yourself every single time, and usually, the side of you that wants the shiny new thing wins. Step 2 is to pay your future first, even if it is tiny. This is not investment advice. This is psychology. If you only save whatever is left at the end of the month, you are trusting your future to your willpower. And willpower loses to a long week, a bad mood, and a targeted ad algorithm designed by thousands of engineers to break your resolve. So make it automatic, even if it is $50. The goal is not the amount. The goal is the identity. You are telling yourself, I am the kind of person who pays the future before the present. That single identity shift reduces the urge to inflate your lifestyle because now your money has a job before it hits your checking account. It changes the equation from what can I buy with this to what is left after I have taken care of my future self. Step 3 is to delay purchases that are really identity buys. Most expensive mistakes aren't practical buys. They are emotional buys. They are saying things like, I deserve it, or I am falling behind, or I need to look successful to be successful. We buy things to bridge the gap between who we are and who we want to be. So here is the rule. If it is not a medical or physical necessity, wait 48 hours. Why 48 hours? Because dopamine, the chemical of wanting, fades quickly. The thrill is in the hunt, not the having. Have you ever wanted something so badly, bought it, and then 2 days later felt completely indifferent toward it? That is the dopamine crash. By waiting 48 hours, you let the chemical storm in your brain settle. You let the rational part of your brain come back online. If the purchase is truly aligned with your needs, it survives the delay. You will still want it in 2 days. But if it is just a mood, if it is just a reaction to a bad day or an insecure moment, it usually collapses. You will forget you even wanted it. Now let's connect the steps to the original rule. The ancient rule is not don't spend. The ancient rule is control the boundary of appetite, so your money stops leaking into vanity and panic. It is about realizing that freedom is more valuable than looking rich. And here is the part that might sting, but it is important. You cannot out-earn a boundary problem. It is not the income that is broken. It is the unchecked expansion of wants that turns every raise into a reset button. If you make $1 million a year, but your lifestyle costs $1 million a year, you are still broke. You are just broke with nicer stuff. You still have the anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck. The paycheck is just bigger. But imagine this. What if applying this rule freed up not just money, but mental space? Because when desire has a boundary, your brain stops chasing the next upgrade and starts enjoying what is already there. You stop scanning the horizon for the next thing that will finally make you happy, and you start looking at what you have. You realize that the goal isn't to upgrade your life indefinitely, but to build a life you don't feel the need to escape from through spending. There's a peace that comes from knowing you have enough. It is a quiet confidence. You walk into a store, and you don't feel the pull because you know your boundary. You see the ads, and they don't trigger that sense of lack, because you know what you are building. So what do you do today, right after this video? So this isn't just a nice idea you heard and forgot. Do this in 3 minutes. Write your nature boundary as one sentence. Just one sentence that defines where your line is. Pick one automatic future payment, even if it is small, and set it up. Choose one identity by category. Maybe it is clothes. Maybe it is tech. Maybe it is eating out. That must pass a 48-hour delay from now on. And then keep it boring. The rule works because it is boring. The drama is what drains you. Building wealth is actually quite repetitive. It is doing the same smart things over and over again for a long time. The excitement shouldn't come from spending money. It should come from the freedom that money buys you. Final note, because I want this channel to stay clean and realistic. This is educational, not financial advice. But it is a powerful lens. And if you apply it, you will notice something strange. Money starts feeling calmer, even before the numbers change. You stop feeling like you are constantly behind, and you start feeling like you are in control. We explored the ancient philosophical concept that poverty isn't a lack of income, but a lack of boundaries on desire. By creating a specific nature boundary and delaying impulse purchases, we break the cycle of lifestyle inflation, the Diderot Effect. Stay aware, stay adaptable, stay curious. Now comment time. I want to build the next episode around what you actually struggle with. Comment needs if your issue is essentials getting expensive. Comment wants if your issue is lifestyle inflation and upgrades. I read every comment to understand where we should go next.